give it 1 second.
Nā mai haere mai everyone and welcome. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi mahana kia katoa. Welcome councillors, welcome staff, welcome media. I have apologies. I have one apology from Bruce Graham and I have an apology from Councillor Wilkinson. He's presently on the Inter-Island Ferry and as soon as he comes back into coverage, he'll join the meeting. So could I please have one apology and one late apology? Can someone please move that? Move Councillor Foster, seconded by?
I'm sorry, Brian. Sorry, Brian, for cutting in, but I mean, I wasn't going to accept Selwyn's apology today, and I'm not sure how we go about it now that he's given one, and the fact that he's actually in transit. Can I still put in that I'm not accepting his apology?
Yes, the way I'll do it, Councillor Payne, is that we will, if I get a seconder for Councillor Foster's accepting of the apology and the apology for lateness, we will have a general discussion and then put it to the vote. If that vote's lost, then you can move your amended vote.
I've got my hand up, Brian.
So is that to second it, Councillor Boll-Wheeler, or?
And that is to second that, and I think there are at the moment, there are rather exceptional circumstances, so I think it would be, but me in the spirit of us not to accept the apologies, all apologies.
Okay, then look, I've got a mover and a seconder that the apologies are accepted. The matter's open for general discussion for councillors before we put it to the vote. Steve, you have your hand up. Sorry, our CEO Steve has his hand up.
Yeah, just make the point, Your Worship, that unlike the item we had at the previous meeting, this resolution is to accept the apologies. So if any of your councillors aren't prepared to accept it, they simply vote against it. And there's no need for a subsequent resolution unless this particular one is lost.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Councillor Payne before. If no one else has their hands up, I'll put it to the vote. So we will vote by raising hands, please. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
I am.
No, on the, like on the actual computer.
Oh. Mine just gone dead, Brian.
Okay, so I'll take you as a yes.
That's
Now,
right.
all those against, please, if everyone that's raised their hand can now lower their hand. And those against, please raise your hand. The motion is passed. The three councillors that have voted against it wish to have their vote recorded.
Yes, I do, Brian. Thank you.
So we've got Councillor Payne wishes to have their vote recorded.
Yes, I do too, please.
And Councillor Ludeman.
And me, Gaynor.
And Councillor Finch want their vote recorded. So thank you for that. Is there any late items or urgent business? Just a reminder to councillors that there will be an opportunity and you'll notice that the 6 weekly update of your attendances isn't part of the agenda, but I do want a general discussion just before we go into non-public so that all councillors are aware of what other councillors are doing in their communities, primarily around COVID. Just before we move on, Councillor Finch, you've got your hand up. And now we haven't. That's excellent.
Sorry, lowered it.
No problem. So if there's no late or urgent business, any declarations of interest? Can I remind all councillors that the meeting is being recorded, and we will move over to item number 1, which is the Risk and Assurance Committee's recommendation. John Scott, do you have any further information you wish to give?
No, Your Worship, this is basically the standard engagement and the proposal letter. So we did have some questions from the Risk and Assurance Chair and I've reflected the answers to those below there, but there's no issues unless there are questions.
Thank you for that. I'll open it up to councillors. It's my expectation that to me, it's pretty straightforward, so I will be willing to take both recommendations as one, but the matter's open for recommendation. Councillor Volwela.
Just a question to John. There was a question raised at the Audit and Risk and Assurance Committee meeting just about the ability for the auditor to complete the audit under these current restrictions, and they've replied that they can. Just how can council manage to engage with the auditors? Will council be able to engage satisfactorily from our point of view? Will council be able to engage with the auditors if these restrictions are still in place in a month's time or more?
Just to respond through the chair, I mean, part of that will be giving them remote access, like we can dial into Ozone, so we might be able to just give them read-only access to our systems, so they can do their sample drawing, and from that side, if we need to, we can scan and email the documents to them. So, I mean, it'll be untested, Bruce, but we do have ways around it if we need to. Well, we theoretically do.
Thank you for that, John. Is there any further discussion, councillors? Someone prepared to move both recommendations, please? Bruce, Councillor Volwela has moved, seconded by Councillor Ludeman. I'll put it to the vote by raising hands once again. All those in favour, please raise your hands.
Aye.
Right, that's unanimous, so we'll take that as passed. Thank you for that. If I could now please go to item number 2, which is the Risk and Assurance Committee's recommendations. Once again, back to John Scott. Bruce, if you could just lower your hand, please, or is there a question before we go there? Thank you. So over to John Scott, please.
Can you give us time to move between the items and tell us what page to move to?
Oh, sorry, my apologies. It's page 27 that item number 2 is on.
Thank you.
Okay, so Chair, this
Sorry,
is...
I'm in the more modern format of reading it from pages, Bruce.
I've managed, got it up here on the screen. Yeah.
Done. Sorry, John.
sorry, Brian. Are you using the digital version as well? No, sorry, just a joke. Quickly, so this is the Treasury Management Policy that we've had reworded, working with me and the Risk and Assurance Chair, as well as overview from our debt advisor, Miles O'Connor. So we've actually made this into a more 2 documents as opposed to 1, sort of easier English, and it meets the borrowing requirements that Miles reckons that we should comply with. So we did discuss this at the Risk and Assurance Committee. So unless there are any questions, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for that, John. Yes, for those that were at the audit Risk and Assurance meeting, you'll be well versed with this, but it is an opportunity for councillors to discuss. Councillor Volwela.
Thank you, Your Worship. On page 31 of the agenda, objectives 5 and C, bullet point C, there was developing and maintaining relationships with financial institutions, including the local government, including the LGFA, arrange, structure, contract, optimise. I think I mentioned that at the Risk and Assurance, but should that be another bullet point there from arrange?
I thought we had changed the other. There was another one that I did change, Bruce.
In this version, the version I have, it's still just as 1 bullet point.
Okay, we can accept it with that amendment. I did change 1 by another C as well, but it might be a different, the other document C. Bruce.
All right. Yeah.
Because, and maybe I took down the notes wrong, but if we want to, we can change page 31.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. 5, we'll make 5C by arrange as a new point. So it'll go to EFG. That'll be the last one. It'll be 5G will be the last one.
Right.
So we'll take it that that amendment's been made, Councillor Wheeler. So if all other councillors just, when we're voting, that amendment has been made.
Okay. And I have a further amendments.
Go for it.
Okay. Thank you. On page 47, just a minor. Sorry.
47. Yep.
Minor adjustment on that row that says date approved, and then our next review date. This is the investment and liability policy we're looking at, but it says next review date, and that should be with every change in the TMP.
Ah, okay.
I presume.
EMP.
But yeah, with the Treasury Management Policy.
Yeah,
And
typo.
If we're carrying on page 49, we've got the objectives 9 and the secondary objectives. And G, we've got mentioned the self-insurance fund. But I just wonder if we should mention the emergency fund as well. Or does that come under F, build financial resilience to managing unplanned and unexpected?
Yeah.
But the emergency fund's considerably bigger than the self-insurance fund.
Correct.
And
That is a fair call. I hadn't actually seen it that way, but no, that's a fair call, Bruce.
So, and I just had the wording, provide an emergency fund to contribute to costs arising from replacing, repairing council assets damaged by natural disasters or events.
So we take out a self-insurance fund established in 2013 and replace it by an emergency fund.
No.
Or possibly keep them both in.
Okay. Okay.
If that's the will of the council.
If anyone has any objection, can they please put their hand up now and speak their mind? Our CEO, Steve.
Yeah, so Julie, it's just the wording that Councillor Vollweiler is saying in addition to what's already there. So it's a new paragraph or a new sub-paragraph. That's all he's talking about.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wheeler, hand up again.
Yes, sorry, but on page 62, let me get there. We've got bullet point 104, and it says all investment securities must be senior in ranking. Then it's got A and B, and then it refers under that to deferred payments under contract. Now, that doesn't seem to relate to the rest of that paragraph. Should that be a new bullet point 105?
Yeah.
Or is that?
I just saw it as in one sentence though, Bruce, but.
There's a full stop after convertibles.
Yeah, right.
Or are deferred payments expressly included? In that case, it should be C.
Yeah, I would think it would be more C.
Okay.
You're happy with that, John?
Yeah, 104C. Are you
Right.
happy with that, Bruce? Or do you want that?
So C would be defer payment conditions will not require, just that line, Bruce.
So that's
Just-
construction contract stuff. I think it should be C, Bruce.
Okay.
Can I please have an indication from other councillors? If everyone's okay with that, just do nothing. But if you've got any concerns, please raise your hands now. Right, we'll go with that amendment.
Is there any more, Bruce?
No, that's Bruce all done. Julie, could you please remind me, did I have a mover and a seconder on this?
No, you haven't yet.
Right, I think before we head into general discussion, we better get a mover and a seconder. I'm happy to take both recommendations if that's what so wished. Moved, Councillor Cowie, seconded Councillor Foster. Matters open for discussion. Councillor Cowie.
No, I have no discussion.
Oh, sorry, hand's still up. Sorry, Stu, if you could put your hand down just so that I can see if anyone's got any discussion. Thank you. If there's no discussion, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Yes, that's, and those against, although I think that's everyone, those against. So everyone could lower their hands and then we'll. Those against, done. So that's passed. If we could please move now to agenda item number 3, which is on page 66. Local government statement, something that we have to go through on a regular basis. With Larissa having prepared the agenda item and not being, is Larissa is there. Welcome, Larissa. Do you have anything you wish to add further to your paper?
I just take the item as read, Your Worship, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. Councillors, are there any questions for Larissa? Councillor Volwela.
Yes, sorry, me again. On page 68, we've got the purpose of local government, and B is to meet the current and future needs of communities, etc. That has been amended back to including the four well-beings, the economic, social, cultural, and environmental. Well, I guess is there a comment on that?
Through you, Your Worship, that is extremely well spotted, as always, Sir Bruce, and that needs to be updated.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Larissa? If not, I'll take both recommendations as stated. I need a mover, please. Move, Councillor Ludeman, seconded Councillor Felt. Any further discussion? Yes, thank you. Is there any further discussion, councillors? I'm happy to see that on page 70, Equal Employment Opportunities Policy, when we pass this, it will mean that the birthday group can be for both genders. So that's excellent to see. And we'll be looking for rigorously having that policy maintained. But could everyone please, who are in favour of this, raise their hands now? Thank you. If you could lower your hands, all those against. That's unanimous, so thank you for that. Moving on to agenda item number 4, which is the rates instalments actions. Is Sharon Jenkinson there? She's not. So John, are you speaking on behalf of Sharon?
I will, Your Worship.
Oh, thank you, Steve. So hand over to our CEO, Steve. Thank you.
Yes, I just again must apologise. I have no idea how we are getting notes from councillor or councillors on these reports, because I don't know if you've got it, but I've got it on page 73, some handwritten notes. And this is the second time this has happened. So we need to find out how this is happening, because
That is Michelle again, I bet.
it's just, we need to find out how, because it might be more problematic. The comments are a little bit different in the future. But anyway, just want to make sure everybody else had the same
Sorry, Steve.
experience as me. So this report, I'll take it as being read. It's something that we thought was needed given the situation with COVID-19 at the moment, and the fact that the rates instalments letter was going out shortly, and there's definitely some issues associated with that. But I'll make the point that it's only addressing the current year and what we can do with existing tools within the current year. So that's why we have suggested what we have suggested. At the end of the day, it's only staff suggestions, so it's up to councillors as to whether or not they wish to go down this pathway. Other than that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. So firstly, is there any questions for our CEO? We've got 3 questions lined up, so we'll take Councillor Kennedy, followed by Volwela and Cowie. Councillor Kennedy.
Thanks, Steve. I don't know how this is happening, but that's my scribbling on that piece of paper. With our rates due to go out, what I had scribbled there was about a pamphlet to go with it, with the rates, whether it be a pamphlet or just a page letter of, so people don't get too stressed out. And I mean, we're not going to see it probably straight off, but by the time the rates come out, that'll be the least on people's minds to be paying when they've got no income coming in and they've got children to feed. But I was just wondering, you know, is there something we can put out to our ratepayers?
Hello, Sharon speaking.
How to
How you doing?
Excuse me, Sharon, your microphone's on.
Sorry, yeah, got off track now. Yeah, just, I don't know whether deferred payments or how we go about doing this, but yeah, it will become quite a stressful thing for some of our ratepayers out there. And it's not because they don't want to pay their rates, it's just they can't.
Well,
Just an answer through you, Your Worship. We are putting this in now because we've got time to be able to put in the rate, an insert with the rates. So whether it's a pamphlet or an insert, definitely if you make a decision today, it allows us to message it appropriately through a whole range of different mediums, but definitely with the rates instalment letters as well.
Thank you for that. Next one is Councillor Volwela, followed by Cowie.
In our messaging, we should also put in promote the rates rebate scheme. I noticed the numbers, the uptake of that has been dropping off just gradually over the last couple of years. So I think there should be some strong messaging about that, and that council can help people apply for that. And also, people can't just not pay their rates without any explanation. I think they need to get in touch with council beforehand and say that they just don't let the rates payment day come and go without any contact with council. Thank you.
Thank you, I agree with that. Do you wish to have any statement on that, Steve?
No, Your Worship. I mean, I've taken some notes. We will definitely be working with you on the messaging, and I've pre-warned Sharon and I've pre-warned Sue about the importance of that.
Thank you. Now, I did have Councillor Cowie with hand up. Are you still wanting to speak, Stu? You're on mute, yeah.
yeah. Well, my question really, sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Steve, was who sort of instigated the article, and I gather, sort of listening to what you said this morning, I'm presuming this is more like a national directive to councils to give ratepayers an indication of where their individual councils stand around the matter. But I'm quite clear in my mind that we should continue business as usual until this fourth quarter ends, because whatever we do for this quarter, we change, will that become the new norm? So I'd just like to see us, because this is, in my opinion, this is the first 100 yards of a marathon we're sort of in, and I just think it, and I know there's a lot of people will be feeling hardship, but most ratepayers, like farmers and everything, a lot of people, a lot of council staff, be sitting home saving money at the moment. They won't be getting poorer. So I don't want to sort of preempt and guess who is facing hardship. I just think that is the 2021 issue that we'll have to decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cowie. Councillor Ludeman, followed by Finch.
Well, for me, I'm keen to put something out with this next lot of rates, but in doing so, I would like to see quite a rigid application form prepared if that was the line we went down, so that each case is actually considered on a personal basis. And I know that's digging into people's personal details, but actually at this early stage there will be some that will be hit hard this time, and I agree with Councillor Cowie, it'll be more so going down the track, but we should still be thinking of those that will be hit hard for the next, because really your next rate payment is the end of May. There's some people out there that will actually be getting no income, and so we do need to consider those people. And that's why I'm suggesting, if we go down this track, if we have I think we need to think out the process and have an application process so that each case is considered on a case-by-case basis at this stage. That's my thoughts.
Thank you,
on it.
Councillor Ludeman. Our CEO's, Steve, I'll just take it if your hand's up that you wish to assist, so you can join in now, followed by Councillor Finch, Councillor Payne.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yes, before I forget all the questions, just in terms of trying to answer them, that's the reason I just put my hand up if there was an answer to a particular question. So the first one was Councillor Cowie's question, and part of it is actually nothing to do with staff. Councillor Cowie, you as council will make a decision as to whether or not you wish to support this or not, and that's your decision. But in answer to the first part of your question, this didn't come nationally at all. It was just coming through a whole lot of different mediums that we were aware of, discussions with the mayor, discussions with the community, all our different feelers that we've had about the particular issue for this rates instalment. So no national direction, we're just picking up on the vibes, and that's why we're raising it. At the end of the day, though, it's councillors' decision as to whether they go one path or another. The second thing is just answering Councillor Ludeman's question. At the moment, we already offer payment plans for people in hardship. So it's not anything new, but it's expected to be something that's going to happen irrespective of whether you wish to offer any relief or not around penalties. There's going to be more people on this rates instalment, we believe, are going to be putting their hands up and saying, hey, I can't pay, or what do I got to do? So we believe we're going to have to address that anyway. And we're not suggesting people don't pay. We're suggesting that we're entering into arrangements with those people to pay, because we have no ability to offer alternatives at this point until we go down a different pathway. And then the third thing about that, Councillor Ludeman, just an answer again, is that it has to be personal, because it's personal now anyway. And whether that's an application and we get more formalised, we're still very much discretionary about it, because we don't really have any formalisation of, you know, who can or who can't do anything. I think it will very much be an individual matter that will be looked at when someone puts their hand up.
Thank you for that. I've now got Councillor Finch, followed by Councillor Payne, and then myself.
Thank you. Alison asked my question as well, and I was also going to ask the legalities of being able to prove that they are in hardship as well. And I think we definitely need something to go out and say, you need to contact us most definitely for if they are struggling financially. But what are the legalities of us looking into if they're not being employed at the moment or are, so whether they have or have not got any income?
Thank you for that, Gaynor. Councillor Payne?
Thank you.
So, Kian, just before you go, Steve's got a response to Gaynor.
Yes, so again, through your worship, what we're proposing is legal because we're not doing anything more than what we have available to us, although we are projecting more authority through you, for example, in terms of deferring or not applying rates penalties. We have that ability now as a discretion, but it's more formalised through this process for this particular issue because it would be making that available for a wider grouping. And the other thing is I just go back to the point that it's personalised, so it is about payment plans, and that will absolutely depend on the person's circumstances. So there will have to be those individual discussions.
Thank you for that. Councillor Finch, do you have further questions? Hand still up.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Councillor Payne, followed by Sal.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Look, my question's mostly been answered anyway. I mean, I'm thankful that our local economy is predominantly based around agriculture, so big hands up to all the farmers in the district, and it is an essential business. I'm not sure how that's going to affect our localised region. I guess there's some tourism parts of the structure and that will be definitely affected, and certainly some of the town folk with shops and retail and what have you. I just wanted to signal the fact that I agree with recommendation 2, and I think we should run with it. And as everyone's already said, we just need to have a pragmatic approach to it and make sure we tick all the boxes.
Thank you for that, Councillor Payne. For my part, look, we know that these are exceptional times, but there's also an immediacy to it. Every day at the moment, I'm getting requests from right across New Zealand that we, amongst other councils, drop our rates to a 0 rates. And I will say it that one of those was the Property Owners Foundation that right at the very start hit us with it, demanding 0 rates. And I thought the hypocrisy when in the last year rentals have gone up by 100% or more and they stayed quiet. That aside, if we were to take that option, no relief comes to our communities until August. That's when your first payment is there. There is a need for a compassion to be showed here by council. There's a lot of good people that are under pressure. We need to have some ability to respond, and I think this does it. The only issue I did have was that on page 73, you'll see in the bottom left-hand box, the second bullet point, that it is down to staff delegation, which I sort of thought that's pretty hard on the staff to have it completely on their shoulders to have the delegation. And I just wondered if it was, we should take the load on this as well, that councillors confirm guidelines. So staff work through the options, but it's also that councillors say, yes, we would agree with that, so that in the inevitable challenges that may come through, the staff know that they have support from council. But I do think these are exceptional times. We've got the ability to do this. And I will certainly be in support of it. CEO Hill.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yes, just in reply, we did consider that issue of staff delegation. The problem is it would mean that we would have to do some homework with you all to go through what would be parameters that then you would give us guidance over. And that might be quite problematic. The point is that what we would envisage is that someone would be saying and explaining that they are having real difficulty paying this particular instalment, and they will tell us why they're having difficulty paying the instalment. And this just gives us that vehicle to be able to offer a deferred payment for it. I'm not sure, you know, what type of structure or direction that you as the elected members would be looking to give us as staff about that process. Because if somebody says just practically, I can't afford it, it's very difficult for us to be then saying suddenly, well, too bad, we're not going to offer you anything.
It wasn't so much that I wanted to wordsmith it, it's that I wanted the councillors to give the staff the support. So it's just a backup and an additional. I note now Councillor Ludeman followed by Councillor Cowie. And I'll be looking for a vote, a recommendation put forward after that if I can, please. Councillor Ludeman.
Personally, I think it should stay within staff. I don't believe that this is something that councillors need to get involved in, because people that come and ask for rates relief, often it's extremely hard for them to actually do that. It's extremely personal, and the less people that need to be aware of it, the better. And as long as there's proper guidelines in place, and that's not, I mean, there'll be staff members allocated for this, and I just think it's not something that councillors should be involved with.
Under no circumstances did I want it to go down to the personal. It was just confirming the guidelines. So those structural guidelines to give the staff support. But I think
the staff dealing with the rates rebate scheme now on a daily basis would be aware of probably, I think we'd have to have faith in that, otherwise it's probably too difficult. That's just my take.
Thank you, Alison. Councillor Cowie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, your question's you partially answered my question, because I thought for a councillor's involvement, then there'd be privacy issues that would be concerning to ratepayers. But my other concern is, how does someone prove hardship? So perhaps someone can actually answer that question, please.
Mr. Hill.
Through you, Your Worship, Councillor Cowie, I can't, as you probably would know in asking that question, I can't tell you specifically how that's to be addressed. What I can say is that the staff are already dealing with issues like that, and sometimes they refer it to me for confirmation. And they are usually well aware from the individual and personal discussions about the circumstances of people in doing so. So, and this is the difficulty about making that assessment, as you are identifying. It is difficult to say up front in an assessment that somebody is under hardship. But under this set of circumstances, there are some knowns. You know, for example, if the person was not in a category of work that has been affected by this, that might be a red flag for us in that. So we're not, you know, we're not just a carte blanche open to everything. There will be some queries, but these things habitually or just ordinarily aren't things that we as council don't operate like, let's say, WINS, you know, with a very structured process. We're probably a lot more personal than that. Our people that are on the front line doing this, and you know who they are, have a very good understanding generally of the ratepayer base and the situations they're in. I suppose without being a lot more formalised, that's probably the only answer I can give at this point.
I'm happy with that, Steve. I just wanted to support staff, but I think to move the meeting along, we've got two recommendations. I'm prepared to take them both. Is someone prepared to move that way?
Happy to move.
Councillor Payne, seconded by Councillor Herbert. Any further discussion? Put it to the vote by raising hands now, please. It looks like it's unanimous, but we'll just lower the hands, please. Ken and Dane, Yeah, right. And those against? Ken, I'm unsure. Your hands are you against?
No, my hand's lowered, isn't it?
No.
Oh, no, sorry. It's down
Yeah,
now.
so right,
Yeah.
that's unanimous. So thank you for that, councillors. If we could now please move over to page 80, which is the triennial election report. Pretty straightforward as I take it. I can't imagine that we're going to need any overview. So matters open for discussion before we put it to the vote, but pretty straightforward. If there's no discussion, is someone prepared to move the recommendation on page 80?
Yeah, happy to move, Your Worship.
So move Councillor Payne, seconded Councillor Ludeman. Any further discussion? Councillor Payne?
No, I'm just putting my hand up to say yay.
Slow down now. So I've got hands up by Councillor Ludeman and Payne. What are you doing, Ali? Thank you. Right, we'll do the vote. So everyone that's in favour of the recommendation, please raise your hands now. And lower your hands. And raise your hands if you're against, please.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
no, so that is unanimous.
Things are slow here.
Sorry about that, Bruce. Okay, thank you for that. That motion's passed. If we could please go to page 95, which is the annual plan update for 2020-21. Welcome, Larissa. Is there anything you wish to add to your item?
I'll take that item as read, Your Worship, but I would, with the recommendations, you'll see the third one there. It has been raised, brought to my attention that from a producing the annual plan numbers point of view, if there was the change to those later dates, then the level of risk for actually getting the updated numbers and rates to be able to produce the annual plan in time, that could, yeah, there's a higher risk that we won't be able to do that and produce those numbers compared to if we stayed with our existing timeframes in recommendation 2.
So Larissa, what do you want changed? How would it read recommendation 3?
Just that it's removed.
No, removed altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Councillors, matters open for discussion. Councillor Ludeman, followed by Payne.
I'd like to question the fact that we can be doing this, the hearing of submissions and everything under this lockdown phase. I'm concerned, and I don't know how LGNZ is with all this, but because all councils will be the same, but I'm actually concerned that we're trying to hear verbal submissions and make decisions during the lockdown time. And you know, even if we do have to go to 7th of May, will we be out of lockdown by then? I'm just a wee bit concerned about progressing through with this at this stage, and someone might have a better understanding of it all and what LGNZ has to say.
I think we're all concerned like the rest of New Zealand, but the government made it quite clear that they intend us to still meet our statutory timelines. They gave us the latitude to have Zoom meetings. And I think that we've just got, you know, I have faith in the team that will still get out and interact with our communities. It's like many things going to prove a challenge, but obviously not as much of a challenge as councils not setting the rates for the new year. So by statute, we have to do it. And yeah. Ken, have you got a question, a discussion point?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Your Worship, I've just got a question for Larissa, I believe. Just with the COVID and that, and with the submissions, has it directly affected the submissions, do you believe? I mean, I think I've heard there's 47 submissions. It doesn't sound like a lot to me. Is that because of the COVID or what?
Through you, Your Worship, the numbers were down compared to what we would have normally, and the traditional pattern is that there is a flow in the last 48 hours. So that has, it was the 25th of March that they closed, and the submissions that were coming in those last couple of days, as you'll see from the likes of Federated Farmers and some others, they were beginning to raise some concerns about what councils, you know, what the new environment will be like for councils and for rates and so on. You'll see all that when the package comes through to you. So that's likely to be something that you will want to discuss.
I was just trying to establish whether people haven't submitted because they've just got caught up in the COVID, and I guess that's a bit of an unknown anyway, Larissa.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, it was looking like it was going to be quite a quiet annual plan submission year anyway. Probably about half the submissions that we've received have been regarding the, well, maybe 2/3. I haven't done an exact analysis yet, but 2/3 have been from for responses about the Memorial Hall project, and the other ones by and large are funding requests from community and from council service providers, you know, for example, Catlins Historical Society. So that's a basic summary of what we have received.
Thank you, Larissa. Councillor Finch.
Thank you. So are we going to be sent hard copies of those, or are we going to have to print them off ourselves at home, and some of us may be running out of paper? What's going to happen for those submissions so that we get to see them all?
Through you, Your Worship, the next time frames coming up is it's the 16th of April, where we'll be looking to run hearings for anyone that does want to speak. That's looking quite minimal at this point in time, and that's what I'll be following up with the submitters, so that we can make arrangements for them to be able to submit in person using Zoom or for that hearings meeting, or if that is not a likely scenario for any particular submitter, we'll be looking at options there, like for example, if they do want to make a recording or follow up their written submission with what their verbal presentation would have been for that time. So yeah, we'll be going out of our way to make sure that yeah, we can bring that verbal component or updated information to you to do with the submissions that have come in. Sorry, just for you, Your Worship, that we have had that happen before. For example, if Federated Farmers haven't been able to attend the verbal submissions, but they wanted to provide a follow-up. So we have had instances before where we've had sort of a couple of page what their verbal submission would have been.
Thank you, Larissa. Councillor Payne and Councillor Ken, you've still got your hand up? Was that just?
Yeah, sorry, Brian. I just got to take it out.
No problem. I note now, Steve, over to you.
Just following up on the question though from Councillor Finch, Larissa, what's the situation? Do we actually have an ability to get hard copies to people? Because I'm not so sure we have, but do you know anything more about that?
Sorry, yeah, through you, Your Worship, apologies, Councillor Finch. We have always distributed them electronically, and I'm just not sure what the position is on printed copies. There isn't a large volume, to be fair, like there have been in other years. So I don't know it's going to be as much of an issue, and particularly for the verbal submissions side of things, I think there will be relatively few for councillors to read through before the 16th. But what we could endeavour to do is for the decisions meeting that you have on the 7th of May, we could update our structure so that if there's an agenda report in response to a submission, we append that submission with it in the report as well. So you're not having multiple documents to fish through to be able to refer back to the submission while you're looking at the report for the decisions meeting, and that might help with the being able to see the information readily.
Thank you, Larissa. Could the note taker please note that Councillor Wilkinson's joined the meeting. Welcome, Selwyn. Welcome from afar.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for joining us. Selwyn, so just so that you're aware of where we're at, if you go into participants in the barrel on the bottom and click the barrel on the bottom, bring up participants, and you'll see down the bottom of that we can raise our hand or lower our hand. That's how we're doing the voting, or if you wish to speak. But welcome once again. I note that Councillor Volwela has a question.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wonder, as I understand it, the lockdown will still be in place on the 16th of April. I wonder if we could perhaps program the verbal submissions to come after our meetings on the Thursday the 30th of April, given that is a standing committees day, and perhaps we have them in the late afternoon, evening of that day, and we've still got a week before we actually decide on any changes, and that way that gives our communities the opportunity, those who want to, the opportunity to come along and speak, and so they don't feel excluded. And by the sounds of it, from what you're saying, Larissa, is that there aren't a big number wishing to speak anyway, but they would just have to be make themselves available in the evening if they wanted to do so. Would that work?
Through you, Your Worship, I think that could be considered as an option, but one of the key considerations with the recommendation of retaining the 16th and the existing dates is that there's a high level of uncertainty. We may be out of lockdown on the 16th of April, but we might not be as well. And depending on the alert level that we're at that point, perhaps even if it moves back to alert level 3, the council still might want to consider how it meets in the coming weeks and months after lockdown, and changes with the alert levels, and assess that from a safety point of view for public coming in, and and for yourselves meeting up as a group in person as well. So that was the recommendation, to retain the 16th on that basis because of the uncertainty. But I certainly think that if that doesn't go according to plan on the 16th, that we could hold that 30th of April date as potential for follow-up or submitters, but it may not be for the next while, a meeting in the chambers or group meetings, just depending on where we get to with COVID.
Larissa, could I suggest that recommendation 2 comes through, that council notes the existing dates of 16th of April for hearing verbal submissions with reserve date of 30th of April. And that will give us the flexibility. Consequently, sorry, Bruce, Councillor Volwela, is your hand still up, or is that from the past?
No, I was going to actually suggest that rather than removing 3, but basically what you've said anyway, that council approves the 30th of April was a backup date for verbal submissions, but not to have anything about the 21st of May there. So just be the reserve date for backup submissions, 30th of April.
Rightio, so with my wording that council notes the existing date of the 16th April for hearing verbal submissions with reserve date of 30th of April, comma, 7th of May for decisions and 12th of June for adopting annual plan. Was that along the lines that you were thinking, Bruce?
Happy to move that, Your Worship.
Along with recommendation 1 as well?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So
Worship.
Councillor Volwell has moved recommendation 1 and the amended recommendation number 2. Is that a seconder of Councillor Finch? You're on mute, Gaynor.
Yes,
Thank you. So I'll take that as a second. Matters open for discussion. Gaynor? Sorry, Gaynor, your hand's still up. Was that a discussion or? Oh, Councillor
No.
Herbert.
down.
Am I up or Gaynor going?
Yes, you are, Councillor Herbert. Thank you.
Unless I'm wrong, we're still in the lockdown until the 23rd of April, aren't we? 4 weeks. So why are we putting 16th of April in there?
Because the submissions will be heard by Zoom or the like or read, because there's every likelihood that it'll also go beyond April.
That's right. That's what I was thinking. No, thank you.
Any further discussion before we put to the vote? Councillor Herbert, your hand's still up. Thank you. Righto, once again, we'll do the vote. Everyone in favour, please raise your hand.
All right.
Yes, now if everyone could please lower their hands. And everyone against, please raise your hand now. That's unanimous, thank you. If we could please move over to page 97, which is the Clutha District Food Bank grant. As you'll be well aware, councillors, this is a fast-moving situation, but one of the welfare issues that we did have in our district was that with everyone going into their bubble, the food banks were finding that donations had virtually completely dried up. While we discussed this matter and the immediacy of the grants so that they could be made this week in anticipation of today and yesterday's rush, obviously things have changed with the central government now coming through to make the payments on reimbursement. I would still like this recommendation to be ratified so that it gives every one of our food banks that seed funding so that they can get out there. These are exceptional circumstances that equates to about 9 cents per ratepayer to put some resilience in a key area for us. And I just want our food banks to be as strong as they can, because we're going to get many a good person turning up quite rightly through no fault of their own. I'm not here to even think. I've turned up at a food bank myself, and you lower your head and it would just be unconscionable that you turn up at a food bank and there is no food. So for me, I certainly hope that you'll still support these recommendations. Matters open for discussion after all of that. Councillor Foster, followed by Ludeman, followed by Sutherland. Councillor Foster.
Sorry, computer on, go slow. Yes, I totally support the idea. To me, I just wonder, I mean, it's very small amounts for a one-off grant. And, you know, 6 weeks before until our next council meeting, I know we agreed initially on a one-off grant, but I just wonder whether we have flexibility there to be able to provide more if we're really desperate for it.
Well, what so we just specifically consider the matter that Councillor Foster's raised. Does anyone have a comment that they wish to raise specifically on this subject? And then I'll go to the others. I think that's CEO Steve Hill, please.
Yes, just through your worship, just remind Councillor Foster that his worship had mentioned that the welfare side of civil defence is authorised now to finance food banks. So the answer to the question, I would think, would be that given that that's the authority now to allow food banks to continue, it's not such an issue for us about waiting for 6 weeks to the next meeting. That's just what I'm thinking based on what's already been approved.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, as I see it now, it's seed funding so that every food bank can make the initial application because it's on reimbursement from the civil defence. So they need that initial cog turned. Are you happy with that, Mel?
Yes, thanks. Yep, sorry, I misunderstood that. Thank you.
No problem. Councillor Ludeman?
Yeah, well, I'm happy with us to support the one-off grant, but I was actually wanting to highlight the fact that there is the civil defence funding there. So more than happy to do a one-off, but actually we need to be making sure that we're also making use of the civil defence funding that is available to our whole district. So that's just the only point I want to raise.
Thank you. Councillor Sutherland?
I was just happy to move it, really.
Okay, so we've got, yeah, I will actually take it and then I will still go. So we've got 2 recommendations there. You're moving, Councillor Sutherland?
Yes.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Wheeler? So we're going to move in we're going to move in a seconder. And Bruce, you did have your hand up for a question or a matter to raise.
Yes, I just perhaps make people aware that there's also a fund from the Ministry of Social Development through, it's called COVID-19 Community Awareness and Preparedness Funds. And the grants of up to $5,000 plus GST for funded community groups that are contributing, sorry, I lost that email, but that are contributing towards the provision of essential community-led solutions to support local resilience and community wellbeing in relation to COVID-19. And I'm happy to forward that email on to councillors for those of you who are working with such groups or can help groups in your community to get that.
Could I suggest, Councillor Volwell, you also forward it to Vicky Woodrow, Head of Welfare for Civil Defence? I presume they'd know about it, but just in case.
I would think so. I would think they'd be in close contact with the Ministry of Social Development.
Surely. Okay, look, I'm going to put this to a vote. So could Carol, are you able to put your hand back down so that we can?
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Rightio. All those in favour of the 2 recommendations, please raise your hand. All right, thank you for that. You can now lower your hands. Wayne? Those against? Thank you for that. And then can I also acknowledge that, look, it's at times like these that the good people of the communities are coming out and the work that all across welfare and responding to this has done has been magnificent. And as we discussed around the district with the different food banks, it's so great to have that service already, the structure in place. What a great job they do. Right, councillors, time to go mowing through a few agenda items. So if we could go over to page 99, we've got 2 meetings here. Firstly, the 20th of February is on page 100 to 111. And then our meeting on the 10th of March, which was a whole 1-pager and 112. I'm happy to take both recommendations that these meeting notes are a true and correct record. Is moved, Councillor Volwheeler, seconded.
Sorry, no, before you do.
Oh, sorry,
just an amendment. Thank you, Worship. An amendment on page 106 at the bottom there's the motion that Council approves the consultation methodology outlined in the strategy, and just the words "or as amended" are removed from that.
Because we've already done that?
we didn't amend it, or we have.
Yes,
yeah.
that's what I mean.
Or if the amendments, yeah, if the amendments were made, they should have been included in the motion.
I agree. So I'll take out those 3 words. So we're now, what we'll be voting on is the exclusion of those 3 words. Councillor Volwela, were you also moving at that same time?
I'm happy to move then, yes.
Thank you. And I noted Councillor Payne, you had your name up as well. So we've got Councillor Volwela moving, Councillor Payne seconding. Is there any further discussion? If not, put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you for that. If you can now lower your hands. Okay, yep, thank you. Those against? Once again, unanimous. Thank you for that.
99.
Righty-ho, page 113, Service Delivery Committee meetings. On the 19th of March, we had our meeting, and the minutes are on pages 114 to 117. Are there any alterations or additions, or is someone prepared to move?
Happy to
Councillor
move, Your
Payne, I
Worship.
see your hand up.
Yeah, happy to move, Your Worship.
Move Councillor Payne, seconded by Councillor Ludeman. Any further discussion?
Pretty straightforward.
Councillor Finch, are you wanting the matter raised? No. Right out, we'll put to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you for that. You can now lower your hand. All those against, please raise their hands. It's passed unanimously. Thank you for that, councillors. Move over to page 117, which is exactly the same once again for the regulatory services meeting held on the same date. Those are on pages 118 through to 120. Is there any discussion, or is someone prepared to move them as a true and correct record? Councillor Volwela.
Moving.
Councillor Volwela's moved, and I take it that Councillor Sutherland seconded?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Any further discussion? Let's put it to the vote. Everyone in favour, please raise their hand. Please lower your hands. All those against? Once again, that's unanimous. This is a far better way of running a meeting, eh? Can't believe it. Right. Corporate and property, you'll see are on pages 122 to 127. That's our minutes from the 19th of March. Once again, someone prepared to move them as a true and correct record, or moved once again by Councillor Volwela?
Sorry, Your Worship. No, I'm not moving, but on page, I'm sure other people have spotted this, but on page 122, we've got the apologies there. That should not be, which says Councillors Herbert, Councillors Herbert and Wilkinson, and was moved and resolved. That did not happen, as you'll see below that.
Yeah, because well, I took it that it just flowed on, and so we went to resolve it, and then there was an amendment came through from Councillor Ludeman, so
it was not resolved.
Yeah, I wasn't actually in the room at the time. Was someone that was there able to back up what Councillor Volwela says? Councillor Finch?
Yeah, I'm trying to work through it, Brian.
No, I don't remember being a seconder for that, Brian.
No, that's on page 124. It was moved, Councillor Phelps and Kennedy. This is what it says, that the apologies be sustained. And that was not resolved because, as you'll see below, there was quite a bit of action and discussion about apologies. So there was a motion put,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, and when you
then there was the amendment.
My apologies for this, team. As you realise, I left the meeting. There was, as I remember it, I was rung by an MP. This was right in the height of what we were going to do around COVID. So I'm going to have to take guidance from councillors. So I've got 3 hands up, Councillor Finch, followed by Ludeman, and then, oh, sorry, in fact, I'll go to, not Councillor Hello. Steve, have you got clarification on this?
Yes, Your Worship. I just looking at the minutes. I think the only confusion there is on page 122, where it has under apologies a statement about being moved. Apologies be sustained. If that was removed, it would correctly reflect what has actually occurred, because then if you look at what's following on page, the bottom of page 122 and the bottom of page 123, the resolutions are actually there in bold, and that's all that needs to be reflected in the minutes. So I think the confusion is just because under the apologies on page 122, there's the moved Councillor Phelps Kennedy and resolved apologies be sustained. If that was removed, the minutes would be correctly reflecting what occurred on pages 122 and 123, as far as I can see.
That makes sense to me. So if someone differs from that, please state your case now. Ali?
No, sorry, I can take it off. I totally agree. That was exactly what I was going to say. If you take out that apologies part, it actually is all reflected in what happened belowhand, and it's highlighted where it's needed to be. So that's all that needs to happen.
Okay, can you take your hand down? Done. So I am going to take that out. I will go back to where I was looking for a mover and a seconder for the recommendation on page 121, obviously now with that alteration. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Ludeman's move, seconded by Councillor Phelps. There's no further discussion. Can we please, by raising our hands, all those in favour, raise your hands now. If we can please now lower our hands. And all those against, please raise your hands. Once again, passed unanimously. Thank you for that. Moving along to the West Otago Community Board, which was held on the 4th of March, and we've got their minutes on page 128 through to 133 for noting. Is someone prepared to note them? We've got Councillor Herbert moving and Councillor Cowie seconding.
No, sorry. Mine's a point of order. Haven't we skipped risk assurance minutes?
That wouldn't surprise me, Stu.
No, risk and assurance, Your Worship, are further down.
Oh yeah, that's, yep, no, 126 campaign chairperson, so 127 West Otago noting. But are you happy to second it, Stu?
Of course.
Righto, so we've got a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion of Councillor Herbert and Carrie put their hands down? And Stu, yep, thank you. So is there any further discussion? Righto. Can we please have the vote by raising your hand? All those in favour, raise your hand. Please lower your hand. And all those against, please raise your hand. Once again, unanimous. So over to page 134, which was the West Otago Community Board. And in noting these minutes, I'd like to acknowledge the 2 new members. We've got 2 new members were sworn in, Tim Dickey and Susanna Stevenson. And I think with their appointments and the crew, there's a real excitement that's around the table now, and I look forward to this training working in with those new councillors, those new community board members, along with the old. Exciting times for Mel and her team, and Mel actually sidestepped the chair, and the old pro Jeff Davidson moved in as chair, so they're up and running for the training and good to see. Can I please have someone move? That's Councillor Foster moving, is it? Yes, it is. Seconded by Councillor Ludeman. All those in favour, please raise your hands now. Thank you. If you could please now lower your hands. All those against, please raise your hands. Once again, unanimous. Thank you. Right, now we've got our risk and assurance meeting from the 19th of March, was on pages 141 through to 146. Councillor Payne.
Sorry.
Are you moving?
No, I'm happy to move. I'm just having a second look through them, but I'm just trying to get lower my hand.
Righto, so Councillor Payne's moved the noting of those minutes. Is someone prepared the second, please? Seconded Councillor Kennedy. We'll put it to the vote. Can everyone please raise their hands? And please lower your hand. Ken Payne.
Oh.
And those against, please raise your hand. Once again, unanimous. So thank you for that. Over to page 147 for our Youth Council meeting on the 10th of February. And just as you're getting over to the page, Council, if I can please put out a plea that, like everything around Council, every facet of Council's operations, Jen and her team are confronted with new challenges. So please, councillors, can we be thinking of how we can support our Youth Council, especially as we move out of phase 4 restrictions to really get in around them? Traditionally, with our Youth Council, we have always joined with them on Anzac Day. And it is still my hope that, because wreaths are being made, that councillors could, while obviously keeping distancing and socially responsible behaviour, if councillors will be laying the wreath, that we also get the appropriate youth councillors from your area. The thought was, and I might get Justine at this point to say where those wreaths are, but the thought was that where we can, we'll still be laying the council wreath at the Senator. Justine, you're not able to just help me out here with saying where those
Yes, I can. Sorry. So the intention is to try, and it will depend on florists being able to access the stock. But we are looking at Lawrence, Tapanui, Harriet, Milton, Owaka, and Balclutha. We don't usually lay a wreath in Kaitangata, from my understanding, or Lovell's Flat, but we can look to that if it need be.
Thank you for that. So councillors, as soon as we finish this agenda item, we are going over to the round the table discussions from councillors. And if any councillor wishes to lay a wreath on behalf of council in these extraordinary times when many of our community will not be able to make, well, obviously there isn't a function to be had, but symbolically, if you wish to lay a wreath on behalf of your community and council, please say it in your round the table discussions and we'll do our best to facilitate. So we've got the noting of the council, Youth Council meeting on the 10th of February. Councillor Cowie, I know you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question I have is, because normally myself and Councillor Thompson from Clinton Ward would have the 2 Telford reps on the Youth Council. Have they been decided yet?
That would be something I'd have to ask Jean. I haven't seen them. Have you, Kim?
Yes, they have been decided, but I can't recall who you've got this time, Stu. I did see it the other day. They have been allocated.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So can I please have a mover for the noting of the Youth Council meeting minutes, at least? Councillor Phelps has moved, seconded by Councillor Finch. Please, could we raise our hands now if you support the moving of the recommendation? Please lower your hand. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're against. Once again, that's unanimous. We're voting unanimously here when we're on Zoom. It's quite good. Thank you for that, councillors. As said at the start of the agenda, I was still wanting to have the opportunity for all councillors and our CEO, Steve Hill, to give an update on what's been happening in the last 6 weeks, but obviously with a focus on the last week, in the hope that there was any councillor that was doing something a bit different that we can get inspiration and ideas from. I know that there has been a couple of councillors really working hard on the resilience of their townships. So, oh, it's me that goes first actually, isn't it? So you'll be pleased to note after 10 years of never working off a computer that the last week I had to be bolted out of my laziness, and I'm a computer whiz now, as Justine would well tell you. To give you a bit of a background, every week I get an update from Southern District Health Board, which has been really helpful in getting a helicopter view of things, and there is an enormous amount of work going on. Every morning I join the Civil Defence team for their daily update, and I want to thank the local Civil Defence team led by Brendan. They've been doing an amazing job building up the coordination, building up the resilience, preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. It's a great time to be in on that every morning, to see that the coordinated response that the council is doing. And I don't know about you, but my bubble's really busy. I intended to go and work in my garden and I haven't got there yet. So I will just go in the order that I have got the participants as we go around the room. And if we get to the end, can you please make notes? And if you have any question for any councillor, we'll have questions at the end. So the first one on my list is Councillor Sutherland.
Hi. I've just had the usual meetings and things, KP with you, things like that. And I've been stuck inside because I'm in the dreaded age over 70. Just lots of walks and things like that, so I haven't been much help to anyone, but I'm happy to do anything that people ask.
Thank you for that, Carol. Councillor Thompson. Where's Jo? She was there. Has Jo moved on?
Can't hear her.
Righto, Councillor Payne.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Look, same as everybody else, all the regular meetings, but and with the fact that we are restricted to our households, it has been a little bit difficult. But we are doing the roadside thing and doing the cowie thing and talking to our neighbours and the likes. But I'd just like to say something a little aside to that. Yesterday, you would have seen that the government announced a funding scheme for projects over $10 million that are spade ready to go. Well, I had a quick conversation with Natasha and Dale, and last night we via Skyping we talked with Steve, and we think we fall into some of that category, and most certainly we're going to be putting in we're going to signal an expression of interest anyway, and I mean socially and economically, just to start the economy of that. I think it's a really good opportunity for us. So no guarantees, but it is something that we are definitely going to have a good look at with the community hub.
Thank you for that, Ken. And look, I think it's more than that. I think that you are totally spade ready, and the only thing that's going to cause hesitation is how do you do fundraising under COVID conditions. And if the government could alleviate that, the shovels will get swinging pretty quickly. So all the best with that.
Well, as I say, like there are a few challenges and there's no guarantees, but we are going to put our best foot forward.
Well done. And please pass on our thanks to the team once again for the work they're doing. Next one up, and I'm a bit confused. It's Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Your Worship. 2nd of March, West Otago Swimming Pool. 11th of March, triennial meeting, and then annual meetings of the Malfat Water Scheme, and then on 17th of March, the Glenkennick triennial, and then annual meeting. So water schemes have been my focus in the last couple of weeks before the shutdown, lockdown.
Thank you, John. Do you have an update on the resilience and the issues as you're seeing them in West Otago?
Oh, look, to be fair, I think we're predominantly a farming community, and in some ways we're the least affected, but then in other ways, personally, we've been majorly affected with other things we're involved in. It's having a huge impact on people. In some regards, here being the only place I've been to and allowed to go, well, pretty much, it's kind of business as usual. And Councillor Kennedy's pretty much got our food bank situation in hand locally in Tapanui. So as far as initiatives or resilience going on, look, I think we're a pretty resilient bunch in the Clutha District anyway. And at this stage, people are viewing it pretty positively and everyone's playing their part, really. So, and long way that continue, and the sooner we're out of it, the better.
Thank you for that, John. I'll go back to Councillor Thompson. Sorry, Joe, for some reason I missed you there. Can you please give an update on Clinton and any focus on resilience around the township or the community? Sorry, Joe, you're on mute. Oh, hold on, now you are on mute. It must be the volume button, Joe. Can you turn the volume up on your computer? You're off mute now, but the volume's low. No swearing. What I think we'll do, Joe, is while you're playing around with that, I'll just go to Councillor Ludeman.
Right, just an update from me. Several town hall meetings with the community hub, and they are really ready to roll. And I totally agree with Ken's comments, and that they get actually ready and do put an expression of interest in for that government funding. The perfect opportunity, and it's probably one of the few projects we would have locally at the moment that's kind of like ready to go and actually do that. So definitely support that. Yes, I'm certainly happy to help out on Anzac Day. Locally, we've been supporting our neighbours. We've got a good group here, and we have the odd wine from across the street occasionally, just to keep everybody on the right page. And I'm actually still working for Hamish from home, and extremely busy. We're getting lots of queries, and they're kind of differing every day, but being able to guide people to places where they need to go, and even to the extent we've been able to guide them to our own local civil defence. So yeah, just quite busy at the moment.
Thank you for that, Ali. Councillor Wawela.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the 5th of March, I had a Project Bruce steering group meeting, and that's the last one for the steering group. It will become the trust will take over the governance of that, and I'm chairperson of that, unfortunately. On the 9th of March, that was the Taieri Mouth Amenity Society, and the 10th of March, after our meeting, and I went up to Alexandra, and we had Clean Air, Warm Homes, Better Health meeting, Hui, up there, just regarding air quality, housing quality, insulation and heating and such like. And on the 19th of March, there was the North Bruce Rural Water Scheme triennial meeting. And that was all the meetings. Run out of, quite happy to be isolated at home most of the time here. I think Councillor Finch was waving around a wee information sheet, which I was going to show, but I'll let her do that, which was put together by Project Bruce and the Hub and Milton Community Health. And yes, one of the groups I'm involved with, we applied for the wage subsidy. And so if anybody is involved in a community group which employs somebody and you're losing income, it's well worth applying for. It's very easy to apply for. Was it $580 odd a week subsidy for a full-time employee, 300 and something for a part-time employee. The money and a bulk amount of $11,000 was deposited in our account, I think 2 days later. No questions asked, so it's well worth doing if you're involved in an organisation like that, or a business for that matter of fact. And I'm also would very much like to be involved in the any wreath laying and Anzac Day too. That's about all I've got, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. So since she was waggling a bit of paper around, you reckon we'll go to Councillor Finch, see what this bit of paper looks like.
Well, I'll start with my meetings first. Thank you, everybody. On the 27th, Otago Museum Trust Board. On the 1st of March, Milton Area Promotions had our Fun Day Sunday at Moore Park, and there was a lot of people came to that. Just a moment, my dog's barking. Quiet, Murphy. Sorry, he's a pup. So we had the police, the fire, and the ambulance there again. We had face painting. I was on the children's water slide and it went off extremely well. We had chocolate wheel, everything. We donated from Milton Area Promotions, ice blocks and water and fizzy drinks for the children. We had lions there doing barbecue and we subsidised half of the price of the sausages for that, and it went on an hour longer than it should have because the kids just did not want to stop on the water slide. It went extremely well. This is about the 4th or 5th year that we've run it, and it is really, really good. On the 9th, Taieri Amenity Society meeting, and I must put in, Bruce Fulweiler came for about the last half hour and gave me a hand pulling the kids down the water slide. Thanks, Bruce. On the 16th, we had a meeting post for Milton Area Promotions, and I am stuck at home because my immune system is compromised, so I'm sorry, not going out and about. But in Milton, we had a lot of the local community go and delivered this that has been done, what's open in the Bruce. Here's a rough guide of what will be available in Milton and Waihola during the lockdown period. They're all subject to change without notice. Look after one another, team, stay well. And it's got the pharmacy as, the Milton Medical Centre, Milton Community Health Trust, Caltex, Super Value, says deliveries available, Foursquare, NPD Milton, Tiffs Engineering, Milton Post Centre, Night and Day, Clutha Vets Milton, PGG, St John's Motel, NPD Waihola, Waihola Store, and that's all on the front here. And it's printed off really well. It was printed using masks and gloves and delivered the same. And then on the back, it's got other critical services, and it's got the hub will be closed down due to COVID-19, but it's got the food bank, Meals on Wheels, police, emergency, aged concern, RSA welfare support, firewood, COVID-19 helpline, need to talk helpline, depression helpline. It's got a whole lot of other things on the back. And then St John's Caring Callers. It's got a lot of things in it there, which other communities might be able to take a look at and do as well. And so that was hand delivered around Milton and then went out to everybody's post box, mailbox yesterday or the day before. Really great idea. And I'm afraid I probably should not do the laying of the wreath. I missed it last year because I was on call, but I just have to stand back at the moment, unfortunately. Sorry, apologies, everybody.
No, thank you for that, Murphy. That's excellent. Thank you, Gaynor. Just for Julie, Selwyn, Councillor Wilkinson has left the meeting, so at 2:44, He sent me an email saying that the internet coverage on the ferry had dropped off. So if you can please note Selwyn left at 2:44. Next one I go to, please, is Councillor Foster.
Actually, it was about 25 past when you looked on the participants that he got dropped off.
Was it?
Yeah.
Right. Did you take note of that, please, Julie?
2:25.
Somewhere around there. Yes, please.
Okay.
Welcome, Councillor Foster.
Thank you very much. So first of all, Anzac Wreath, I've got no problem in laying that here in Lawrence. Just a quick run through the meetings. The Mayor and I met with a resident about new subdivision in Lawrence, which is very exciting. Various meetings around the community plan, Turpika bursary meeting, Turpika rural water scheme meeting, community board meeting. I had a lovely visit with at Project Bruce, with Project Bruce staff at their invitation, and they're very impressive arrangement there, and went to the health centre garden party. And in terms of COVID-19, I'm very humbled by our community because we have some pretty amazing people that are always looking in the background, and I think they just absolutely have blown me away with the work that they're putting in. So I was approached the day before lockdown by our fire chief, because she had been approached by our Four Square asking if they could help with deliveries. They felt they could get inundated with requests for home deliveries, and they were really feeling the pressure. So she phoned me, and we had a meeting prior to lockdown with herself and 2 Lions representatives, and also our very involved minister for the Presbyterian Church here. And so we created a Turpika community support team, and from that has come a Lawrence Community Support Facebook page. We've got about 150 followers on that. But also we asked for other volunteers. The Lions Club were very worried because a lot of their people are over 70, and they were worried again that they wouldn't have enough people to be able to cope with the requests. So we went out and asked for more people to put their hands up to, if we had to, with perhaps Meals on Wheels or food deliveries, and we got a whole new generation of people putting their hands up. So then we did a flyer that was printed with gloves and distributed with gloves by hand around the town, and also it's all gone out to the RD1 and 2 communities, and that was basically a sort of a page to sort of say there are people out there. This was more sort of aimed at any new residents in town, because we have a lot. The Lions Club have an amazing list of vulnerable people that they're ringing all the time, every 2 or 3 days. And so this was just to sort of say, you know, that you don't have to be alone. If you're over 70 or you've got health issues, we can arrange for people to deliver things to your door. Do not go out. If you've got symptoms, do not go out. You know, there's people to help. So, so that's gone out. The requests so far have been easy to handle. Foursquare is doing an amazing job. They're delivering to a lot of houses. And our health centre is doing an incredible job as well. And we've got food bank requests sort of being sorted by our minister. So yeah, all in all, I think the community's handling it pretty well.
Thank you for that, Mel. And I think there's a bit of modesty there, because I've had a number of your community ringing and saying what a great job it was that you were actually doing. Maybe everyone else, and forgetting yourself, I noted. So thank you for that good effort. I'm getting a bit lost as to who. I think we've still got Councillor Catherwood and Councillor Thompson. So Joe, how do you reckon you're going? No, we're still on mute, Carissa. It's volume on it. So look, I'll go to Councillor Catherwood and then I'll come back to you, Joe. Going.
Yeah, g'day all. Yeah, just finished up the last month with the usual meetings, CCI and Caitlin's consultation with yourself and Mike Goldsmith and Saul Carroll over at Kaka Point. when the announcement was made for the pre-lockdown, I looked for information regarding our freedom camping going on through the Catlins. So I took it upon myself to look for a plan, which the Davison City Council advised they were going to take people into Moana pools with showers and toilets available. So at distance, I went and got involved with quite a lot of groups of freedom campers that were genuinely lost as to what direction they had to take. So we managed to move everybody on. I assisted our local police officer on the last evening with a certain amount of people that decided that Purakanui Bay, which was closed, it's a dock camp, they didn't want to, they wanted to self-isolate there, but being closed, they had to move on. So I helped our local police officer out there. We had issues over truck drivers with toilets, so I made some signs, put them up at our local toilets, knowing that they're clean and they're operational, our public toilet. I've been talking with our local Foursquare operator, who's doing a fantastic job, home deliveries, willing to assist there if he needs be. He's got my phone number, haven't been required as yet. I'm the dedicated shopper in my bubble with my mother-in-law around the corner in the age bracket she's in. But yeah, otherwise very, very quiet in my vicinity of Owaka, Punawea. And we've still got a couple of camps are willing to have self-isolating, but everyone should be tidied up. I do note there was a cycle tourist that was totally oblivious to what was going on, so he was making his way through to Dunedin. I'm happy to lay the wreath coming up for Anzac Day, so yeah, I'm comfortable out there and just hoping everyone sticks to the guidelines and stays healthy.
Cheers for that.
No problem.
One last chance, Joe. Nope, we've blown it. It's coming through mute. My apologies, Joe. I don't quite know what to do there. Can I please have a hand here? Have I got every single councillor? If any...
Brian, I wonder if Joe takes her image off and just tries and then unmutes, because sometimes that can unmute now and take your camera off.
Turn your camera off down the bottom. Hit your pad, Joe, and then mute your...
Stop video.
Stop video. Right. Now we'll go to Joe and see whether we can hear her audio presentation.
No. Oh.
It's not going to work, eh? There's something wrong because it shows it's working.
It would be internet connection, I think.
Right, our team, does anyone have any questions for any other councillor?
Oh, excuse me, Your Worship.
Just that.
My apologies, I can't raise my hand as the host, so I can't figure out how.
And
just getting back to
Anne. Call me Your Worship as well. I'm quite impressed.
Just getting back to Anzac Day, it's noted that all the elected members would like to, the ones that would like to lay a wreath. So we'll start working. I'll work with the other staff on maybe seeing what's possible in terms of getting greenery for wreaths. But just to bear in mind also, we'll have to work within the safety guidelines at that time in terms of physically laying the wreaths. So if we can just be in touch with that at the time, if that's okay.
Absolutely. It was always our intention that we maintain distancing. It won't be a social gathering.
Okay,
we will march or the like with 2 or 3 meters in between. But I think if we can, it's still important that we acknowledge there's not a time.
Yes, definitely. Okay.
Thank you. So quick councillors with their hands up is Councillor Payne, followed by Kennedy and Cowie.
Thanks, Your Worship. Look, mine's got nothing to do with this. My wife just said to me on the TV that they've got the update going, and there's just been some of the first casualties. She said that the Women's Day, Metro, Women's Weekly, North and South have all been ceased to continue, and everybody's been made redundant. So I think it's a sign of things to come. and actually highlights the importance of us to look after our own local community with the economy going forward. So just a bit of a news flash.
Thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
Just wanted to say that proud of everybody out there, but please make sure that people stay in their bubbles. There's a lot more to come yet. I'm busy working out of Gore a lot, still doing Tapanui also, but yeah, just reiterate to people, stay in your bubbles because it's not over. Thankful to the young people around that are bored, so they're running the roads, picking up bags of rubbish as they go. Good on them. West Otago has a supporting West Otago group that's up on Facebook, and those couple of ladies are doing a fantastic job of getting out and about. Well, not in that sense on Facebook, and anything that's coming through is coming through. I really feel for the families that are struggling with funeral services. We've had a couple here in West Otago where a member of a family has passed away, and of course no one can get anywhere near. Be mindful of the families that have people in hospitals or that, because no one can go with that family. They are on their own in an ambulance, they are on their own in hospital. Family members aren't allowed. Luckily, support with maternity is one person, usually dad, but sadly those girls want mum, but mum's not allowed to be there, can only be one. Hats off to Tapanui Supermarket. Our over 70s population is quite big in West Otago, and the guys have put in great facilities there of contacting our elderly, getting their orders out to them and that. Clutha Health First, well done guys. They're working very hard and very well there with their zonings. So when you go into your GP or anything, everything is done over phone now, and only taking in cases that they really need to. Otherwise it can be dealt with through the pharmacies and other things. What else have I got? Morales, guys, keep the morales up in the next couple of weeks. It's when I see mental health will start showing its face really badly. So whatever you can do out there, and a funny story or something to somebody else, share it on Facebook, keep the morales up. And yeah, great work everybody, keep it up.
Thank you, Michelle. Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well said, Michelle. As you're all aware, that my wife Barbara is a charge radiographer at Clutha Health First, so she's been living, sleeping, breathing this, and I'm lucky I can go outside and just concentrating something on the farm. But it's week one, and I think that's the novelty week, and I agree with you, it'll get a bit tougher. But just from a council's perspective, I was involved in a number of water scheme meetings. Probably the most disappointing one was, some of you would have heard, over at Clydevale Pomahaka, and that's not only from my perspective but from staff perspective and City Water Care that have done a lot of work to find out where the water was disappearing to. That scheme has got about a 30%, they're calling it leakage, but there's quite a bit of water restrictor interference. They sent out invoices for $1,000. It's cost them, $100,000. The committee, in their wisdom, as much as I tried to convince them otherwise, decided to waive all those invoices. So in my mind, they've just delayed the issue. So that was pretty disappointing, actually. But there was a number of apologies, and I think those guys would have might have supported me in trying to convince them otherwise. But and just from a farming perspective, look, I hope the autumn carries on as good as it is, because that's what we're going to need. There's going to be a bit of an issue with, I've still got 1,000 lambs that need to die, and I've been told the Blue Sky Meats, Bear Luck Parnell and John Edgar, they're not going to open up again, I was told today. I hope that was wrong, but And then, as I said, with the issue of all the dairy farmers with their cold cows that need to die. So any freezing works is going is a great thing at the moment, and I wish them every success. But otherwise, I'm got plenty of things to catch up. And as far as I'm concerned, this is probably the most boring council meeting I've ever been to, because I love going in for I need a bit of contact, and I'm not getting it here, sorry. So cheers, thanks for everyone's involvement today.
Thank you for that, Stu. And it's just come through that Lawnville, one of their workers was tested positive. So that's going to put a scramble through the biggest works in New Zealand. Right. Now, I think it's Councillor Payne is the next one that had their hand up. I'm not too sure.
No, I'm done. I just haven't taken my hand out.
Councillor Volwheeler.
Just wondering, a question for Councillor Cowie, whether the matter of the invoicing of unconsented or unpaid takes, whether that should actually become a council matter, not just the decision of the water scheme.
I'm sorry, I missed a wee bit of the question.
The question is, the water scheme has decided to waive or remit the invoices for the unpaid water for the.
Well, it was more unauthorised water use, and they had some pretty solid evidence. It was restrictors interfered with. It was all photographed. I mean, I've seen some of the restrictors, and I think probably that some of the water scheme members might have were just a wee bit too close to some of the people that are involved. I mean, and some of them are quite open and honest about what they've done.
Is that a matter then that should actually come back to council to make that decision?
No, I don't think that's a delegation that the water scheme has. We went into public excluded. This was a tidy up from the old committee, and then we formed the new committee for this next triennium, and there was a number of people come along because they had been invoiced, really just to find out the result. And I said, well, here's your opportunity to get involved with the water scheme so you can, assist and you understand it better and help them make sound decisions. But no, they weren't interested. All they really wanted was their water. And yes, Jules is listening. So Jules will be aware of a lot more of it than, I don't want to say too much or mention names, but it was disappointing from my perspective anyway.
What I'll do is I'll cut over to Jules and then go back to Carol and Mel, and then we should wind this one up with Steve's presentation. But Jules, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say that if you do want to discuss that further, we probably should have done that in public excluded, as we're still in a public council session that is being recorded.
Correct. Thank you. Carol, followed by Mel, and then we'll wind this part up.
Mine was just an update on the Nature Park Centennial Park. We've had quite a lot of meetings, and we've bought more trees and roses with the Rotary money. And unfortunately, the working bee with them won't be able to happen. We've got paint for the seats, and Bengal's got some dirt for us. So I just thought that's just an update on that.
Thank you, Carol. And finally to Mel.
Thank you. It was just a question I had from a resident or a request about COVID-19, and he had seen in the paper that Central Otago were actually listing where their cases were coming up, and he wondered if that was something that we should be doing in the Clutha District.
So all mayors get a report every day from Chris Fleming, Southern District Health, and Tim actually went to the media when he got his 3. So like while we were having this meeting, it came through that our number still holds at 3. So there's been a fair bit of talk around confidentiality. It was more for mayors to be the conduit back to the civil defence, so that so the civil defence knows what they're dealing with, and the police and the like. But the general disclosure around it should be from the Director General of Health, and we've been pulled into line on that one. So we're not, so although we're getting it, we're going to be, it's only for civil defence and it's up to him to make the public announcement.
Right, okay, thank you.
Can I bring that to the end of that part of the discussion? And if we just finish with, Steve, do you have a quick roundup of your activities and an overview for council, where council is functioning at the moment?
Sure, Your Worship. So just briefly, I'm aware of time and just whipping through it. Obviously, we're focused on the civil defence aspect for the COVID-19 response. It's a civil defence response unlike normal civil defence. So it's a merging effectively of organisational and operational requirements with civil defence requirements. Seems to be working quite well with no real arguments between the civil defence function and the organisational function. It's primarily around resourcing, welfare, information, those sort of things. Unlike as you would expect, if it was a flood, it would be something else and that. So it's a totally different type of operation that's happening. All happening, or mostly happening from home. And those that have had to be going into work, which was only about 2 or 3 people for the civil defence side of things, are transitioning to working from home. So we should be almost there. The other thing is on operating from home, we were scrambling with the 48-hour period for lockdown. IT have been doing a huge amount of work and are still doing a lot of work in getting our people and the elected members working from home. That's been largely very, very successful. I think we are all getting much better at this now and are actually able to do a lot more work than what we might have started from. In terms of the organisation, Joe Jack did a lot of work to try and get a handle on all contact information for our staff. So some staff have access to emails and things, and others didn't. But to make sure that we had an organisation that was still being seen as a total organisation that was inclusive of everybody, we got all the personal contact details from staff before we locked down, and the official, obviously we had the official staff emails. So that means that there's ways in which we're contacting people. So on a weekly basis, I give a staff update through the personal emails and the staff emails. It goes out just to keep things going. Valerie is back now from her holiday. That ended up pretty quickly. She's back home in Waihola and she's operating from home, and she's working on a buddy system for people to be talking to each other, and there's a staff Facebook page. So we're doing a lot to try and make sure that even those people that actually currently cannot do anything are still seen as being part of the team and part of the organisation. And I really take that point about the morale side of things. So I'm hoping that we've got enough systems in place for people to contact HR and Valerie and others that we can keep an eye on how things are going there. In terms of work, obviously the concentrating on essential services, and that includes the wastewater related work, so that's not being forgotten at all. We made sure that that was part of the work associated with essential services. And as we're getting better at working from home, I think more and more of the work program will start to be, will continue to be done as a consequence. I think the first week was a lot of feeling around about things, but people are getting better and our expectations can increase as a consequence of that. The focus at the moment outside civil defence is obviously on the annual plan and how we're putting that information together. And you had some questions about the submissions and how we're dealing with that, but we've got our own questions around managing the work program and the other things that we needed to be doing financially. So that's something that's really important, and you approved just previously the program for it. And I'm just thinking that we're going to probably have to insert something before the decision-making day, because I'm just conscious of the question around the principal question around do you go for a rates increase? Do you go for no rates increase? Do you make significant changes to your work program. And I think you need to have a discussion all about that before we get to decision day on a principal basis, because there's a lot of pluses and minuses and a lot of information you may not have that we are getting as we go through, and Brian's involved in that as well. And I think we should really just set, and Larissa's listening, set a time period to have a principal discussion around those sorts of things, because I think the worst thing which will make it untenable is if we got to decision day and there was a major focus change that would require significant financial changes. And what we prefer to have, obviously, from a staff perspective, is get an understanding of where you're feeling about things, so that then we can go and do the financial work and then bring it to you so you're more confident at decision day. So I do think we might have to, it's not normal. We can't go with confidence that everything's stable and go to a decision day. I think we need to have a discussion first about elements of concern that you've got around those finances, and talk about that and get some ideas from it, and then try to focus that for decision day. So that's just something I'm going to talk to Larissa about, and probably chat with Brian later also about that. But I'm just conscious of that, not setting ourselves up to fail. So and I hate doing that. So I'm just conscious of making sure when we get to decision day that we're all comfortable about where we're going on things and we have the right information. So we don't have to go hyping off just to try and suddenly urgently find more financial information to deal with something. I'd prefer to do that because you're telling us that you want us to go down a pathway, and we'll do that earlier. So that's a focus we've got there. And the only other things is just some new people. Yes, we still had new people. Funnily enough, we had a new building control officer start the week of the lockdown. So he hasn't been able to do much, but I suppose he got lucky there that we're paying him as a consequence of that. That guy is Brendan Jury, so he's the brother of Aaron Jury, and he's from the trade, and he's reasonably experienced, so we're looking forward to that. That's the one replacing Steve Holder. We've got a fixed term planner coming in on the 8th of June, Rebecca Shaw. So that's following on from us making Nerily Heckhart full-time and able to get moving on the planning side of things, because up till COVID, and probably still post that anyway, there was a significant amount of backlog in the consenting area. In the service delivery area, we had the transport guy, Graham Hill, had come in. We might have told you that already. In the waters, we had the new team leader, Clive James, and also Thomas Prins. So we're back up to full amount of people, and they're all operating, and they should be operating successfully from home. And the other thing, I suppose, is that as we are moving, we don't know how long the lockdown's going to be, but just that ability to work differently is IT are very much transitioning us all, or the majority of our workforce, to work from home. So it should be a positive thing in that sense, and our capacity to work should increase as a consequence. So we're shifting quite significantly for that. And the other part of it, we still have staff that don't have connectivity, have no work actually to do from home. The other staff we're using for labour resources for deliveries and other bits and pieces, and so they've been more than willing to put their hand up to do things. Your Worship, that's probably a summary from me.
Thank you for that, Stephen. Please pass on to the staff. I know that the IT guys have probably scratched their head for all councillors, but right across the whole spectrum, it's been magnificent to see how all the staff have come together, and it is the go-to team for civil defence, and we appreciate the effort and the commitment that they're all giving. Do we have questions for Steve, please? Mel, followed by Stu.
Sorry, must be my hand still up.
Yeah. Stu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, mine wasn't a question for Steve. Sorry, it was just in my preamble before. I wanted to ask if I could take a wreath on Anzac Day up to Tuapeka Mouth for the Clutha Valley. I normally go there for Anzac Day. So if you could just add me to the list, please, Justine.
Yeah, that's just Justine to do that. You're right with that, Justine? She's got it? Done.
Thank you.
And Councillor Volwela.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a question for Steve. How many staff are still having to work at the office or go out on site to perform their jobs?
I can tell you how many are in the office. At most, it would have been about 4. That's rapidly reducing, and mostly because it was civil defence, a couple, accounts payable as one, and we're still manning the front desk. We thought that was quite important to still have the staff involvement with callers, but we might be changing that if we're getting really good at that at some point, but certainly not next week. We're still going with that. So very limited numbers, and that should reduce to possibly no more than 2 as of next week once the welfare team are working from home. In terms of outside stuff, I can't say numbers, councillor, because basically the water services contractors are all part of this. You know, we've still got some roading work, not much, and we've still got some field staff. But I don't think there would be many occasions, if at all, currently, that our staff have to be, our field staff have to be operating actually in the field, except for the casual labour people that are doing work with cars and that sort of things. So I haven't got an exact number for you, sorry.
Thank you.
Right, thank you for that, team. That was a good catch up, and I really appreciate the effort that everyone's making to get through this situation. We're now going to move into non-public. I'll just check the media is gone. Yep. So can I please have someone move that we go into non-public? Move Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Foster. All those in favour, please raise your hand now. And lower your hands. Those against, please raise your hand. It's unanimous once again. So we're now into non-public. You'll see there that we're going to